The SV650 needs no introduction. As the de facto king of beginner bikes, it's a motorcycle that exudes versatility and offers a little something for any rider. If you've seen some other videos on my channel, you know how I talk about how the 650 class of bikes are basically perfect. They blend just the right amount of power, the right ergonomics, and allow for plenty of customization. The SV650 can be best understood as the Miata of the motorcycling world. In car circles, it's a meme to say that Miatas are always the answer, but the same can be said for the Suzuki SV650. It's always the answer. Want to do some track days on a budget? Used SV650. Commuter to get to work? Used SV650. Beginner rider? Used SV650. It's the golden retriever of bikes, a choice no one can really argue with and reminds us why some things are universally loved. Now, upon heaping praise, you might expect this review to be a glowing effigy to the god of Suzuki. After all, they did make our beloved Turbo Busa. However, the SV650 isn't without faults, and it's important we unearth them. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. On today's video, we're going to be going as deep as I possibly can on the SV to do a full and comprehensive review on the bike. Oh right, if it's your first time here, I should explain. So I currently own a 2018 SV650 as part of our beginner bike giveaways series. It's a show powered by Patreon that I post up every week where I make videos modifying, discussing, and riding our giveaway motorcycles. I've had the SV for about 2 months now and have put on roughly 250 miles on the bike, so I've come to learn and understand it. As the name of the series implies, I am giving this bike away, so check our Patreon page below to learn how you can enter for free, and you can also pick up some merch to get chances to win. Go and click those links and learn all about it. Now, let's dive on in. Suzuki introduced the SV650 back in 1999. Seriously, some of you are probably not even born yet. I was all of 7 years old, so there's that. For some reason, they offered it as a naked and a fully faired option, even though we try to forget the fully faired version because they are ugly and obviously not the patrician naked bike we've come to know and love. 10 years after its debut in 2009, Suzuki bungled things up and made the Gladius, which was based on the SV650 but basically worse in every way. It's ugly, it weighed more, and it just sucked, honestly. So in 2017, when they realized they were getting their lunch completely eaten up, they updated the SV and gave us a proper revitalization of the bike. 2017 saw some important updates to the SV, namely 140 total changes between engine and chassis. And no, that's not just an 8mm bolt to a 10mm bolt. All of these changes add up to about 4 more peak horsepower than the original SV650, which in all honesty you probably won't feel in the saddle. A feature that Suzuki added to this new SV was something called low RPM assist, which honestly I only found out about when doing this video, but I had noticed it when riding around town. Basically, when you pull in the clutch, the bike picks up about 300 RPMs without you giving any throttle input, allowing for less stalling and smoother takeoffs from stops. This is something KTM could really learn from, since the RC390 was the most stalled motorcycle I've ever owned. It's a cool feature and one that doesn't feel intrusive at all. So that's a quick rundown of how we got to the bike. Now let's check the specs, because everybody loves specs. The SV650 retails at the MSRP of about $7,000, a bit more if you want ABS. However, you can find really good deals on these all over the nation and maybe the world, I don't know. But we got our SV for a little under $5,500, which, let me tell you guys, is a whole lot of motorcycle for the money. The SV650 is motivated by a 645cc liquid-cooled V-twin, or an L-twin if you want to be a pedantic Ducatista, which I am one accessories package away from being myself. This unit is a torquey little thing. It makes 47 foot-pounds of torque and 75 horsepower at its peak of 8,500 RPM, even though it redlines at about 10,000. One note about this engine that is, it makes its power extremely linearly, so you don't ever feel like you need to pull it all the way to redline to enjoy it and have some fun. Up front, making your ride a cush and comfortable place is a set of 41mm conventional right side up forks. We'll discuss the handling later on. The SV also has dual 290mm brake discs, which we're going to talk about later on as well. It also has a preload adjustable monoshock at the rear, standard fare for this class. It wears a 120/70/17 front and a 160/60/17 rear, but I'm pretty sure you can fit a standard 180 rear to give you more grip. The seat height is an approachable 30.9 inches, making it pretty easy to flat foot for most riders. I'm 6 foot with a 32-inch seam, and I have a pretty pronounced bend in my knee when I flat foot it, and it weighs 430 pounds. Now that we've run down those specs, how do they translate for a new rider? The SV650 is simple, bare bones motorcycling. The low RPM assist feature is going to allow new riders to think less about stalling and focus more on the road ahead. However, the throttle response, being crisp to the point of snatchy, might make them think twice about whacking it mid-corner. The low seat height allows you to quickly throw a leg down if you're in a tricky slow speed stuff, and the standard ergonomics on the bike will not fatigue you. Simply put, it's a very easy place if you're a new rider. What about for a more experienced rider? For those of us who have been around the block a few times, the SV is a bike you can really grab by the scruff of the neck. I wish I had more time with it and I could throw it on a track and see what it can really do. It's a balanced package that rewards good inputs and feels exactly the way you expect a motorcycle to feel. Everything about it just kind of settles in. You take off with it and you think, yep, I'm in a good spot with this thing. This feels right. I've said it before, but you'd be hard-pressed to put a motorcyclist on this bike and not have them grin when they take it out for a spin. So, segueing from that, what's my opinion on the SV650, as if it's something important? Even though the SV650 has a minimal suspension adjustability, brakes that's going to give you some numb feedback since they're the same Tokikos from 1999, a snatchy throttle that will bite you if you're not very careful with it. I'm looking into some solutions to mellow this out. This is an incredibly sweet package. For 100% street duty, basic commuting, and just enjoying a motorcycle on a twisty back road, it's difficult to go wrong with the SV650. One more note about the suspension, because people nowadays think that they need fully adjustable upside-down Öhlins for street duty. Even though they are right side up and unadjustable, the factory settings are pretty well chosen. You get nice progressive feedback when you grab the brakes and a compliant feel if you smash into a pothole. They don't feel over-damped or too stiff. Ergonomically speaking, since it's a motorcycle with a standard naked setup, it's a bike you can ride all day long without complaints. It really is that good. The engine is a seriously bright spot for this motorcycle. The V-twin, L-twin, whatever you want to call it, is an absolute peach. I can't wait to uncork it from its gigantic Euro 4 exhaust pipe and hear some glorious V-twin sounds. It's pokey, revs happily past 10,000 RPM, and is just rewarding to use in nearly the entire RPM band. Suzuki knocked it out of the park with this engine, and it's second only to Yamaha's absolute gem of a crossplane crank parallel twin found in the FZ07. Which reminds me, no review is complete without mentioning its rivals, right? Let's take a look at the SV650's 3 main rivals. Up first, of course, is Yamaha's FZ07. The comparison makes itself, and it's easy to see why. It's naked, upright, standard motorcycling fun with a 2-cylinder engine making nearly identical horsepower and torque figures. Lucky for you, dear viewer, I owned an FZ07 as part of our giveaway series earlier this year. The FZ feels much more of a hooligan bike than the SV650. It feels a little lighter, a little more plasticky. The sound the engine makes is wonderful on the FZ and is definitely a big selling point for me. Between these two, I'd say go for the one that makes you feel more alive, but definitely test ride both because the SV650 feels much more weighty and metallic than the FZ. The other comparison is to the Ninja 650. Now, the Ninja 650 is another tried and true platform for beginner riders. It's priced similarly to the SV, but it doesn't come in a naked variant. This can be a positive or a negative attribute depending on what you're looking for from your motorcycle. The Ninja 650 also comes equipped with a parallel twin, but it doesn't have the crossplane crank like the FZ07, so it does suffer from the lawnmower engine sound syndrome. But if you can look past that, the Ninja 650 competes well. But between you and me, I'd keep the FZ07 and the SV650 at the top of your comparisons. And the last major competitor is Honda's new CB650R. It's a bit of a dark horse in this segment with its inline 4-cylinder engine making all the classic right sport bike noises, but only making about 80 horsepower, so it's tuned much more for street duty. The CB650R looks the absolute business, but it will be more expensive than the SV650, and it isn't as tried and true, even though you've got Honda reliability on your side. The CB650R is a bike you could ostensibly keep forever. You don't really need much more than this, but since I haven't ridden one, I can't form much of an opinion. It does seem like a strong competitor for the SV though. So, tying it all back to what we said in the beginning, the SV650. It's classic motorcycling distilled to its very simplest components. There's a reason why it's the golden retriever of motorcycles. It's because Suzuki defined the segment back in 1999, and this new version of the SV650 is a very clear indication that Suzuki wants to stay on top of the game. Final verdict, the the SV650 provides amazing bang for buck. It's a super fun, versatile motorcycle that gives new and experienced riders alike something to enjoy. Despite some faults with the braking system and a snatchy throttle, it's a hell of a bike. Thanks so much for watching and checking out this video, guys. It means a lot when you watch these videos, comment, and support what we do here. I'm honored that I have the privilege to ride and own so many different bikes, and it's a pretty great way to spend my time. If you like what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button because we put out content on a near daily basis. And of course, hit the links below to learn how you can get entered to win this exact Suzuki SV650 I've been talking about in the video. If you're watching this later in the future, still click those links because I guarantee you we've got some cool bikes you can win as well. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.